Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about perk design in Dead by Daylight and kind of how it's fundamentally flawed at a base level. And this really makes it difficult for the developers to update old perks and introduce new perks without like seriously breaking the meta in some way. And it's a really hard problem to fix. Now, this whole discussion comes as a result of Fast Track, a newly updated perk that when I saw the description, I was like, yeah, no, that's probably going to be a bit too strong. Probably not the strongest thing we've ever gotten on Survivor, and I still don't think it is. But after having tested it, though, I can say, it's definitely too strong. It gives you too much value without you really having to do much of anything. And in fact, you don't have to do anything. Your teammates just have to die for it to give value or just get hooked in general. So my proposed fix for that was to not really focus on the numbers and really go change the way that you get the tokens, like, make it an anti-tone perk instead. Change the description to whenever the most hooked survivor is hooked, then you gain 6 tokens or something like that. And then that way it'll be like unbreakable for slugging, DS for getting hooked. And then that would be, the Gen Rush, equivalent of a anti-tunnel perk. Just something like that. But here's the thing. I don't think the developers are going to do that. I don't think they're going to look outside the box there. I think what they're probably going to do is chop the percentage bonus from 2 to like 1%. That just seems to be something that they'll do. Now, that brings up a fundamental issue with how perks are designed in DBD. By itself, one person running Fast Track is not overpowered. It's good. It gives them, a brand new part, maybe even 2 in a really lucky scenario. But it's not like an overpowered, ridiculous thing that the killer's unable to, beat. Like, it's still very much beatable if you encounter one Fast Track. When it becomes an issue is when everybody is running Fast Track, because now everybody is getting free brand new parts every single game, unless the killer just doesn't get any hooks, at which point you don't need perks anyway, so who cares? So that is, I think, the main issue. It's with stacking the perks themselves. It makes it too hard to actually balance. And this has been a problem, and many people have talked about it, not just me, over the course of, the past 9, almost 10 years now. This is definitely a huge issue with the game because there's no way to design a perk that used by itself is fine, but then when stacked together is like, it's not overpowered or anything like that. Again, let's look at Fast Track in particular. Let's say we nerf it from 2% charges per token to 1% of the generators, maximum progress that you actually get. So let's say we have the number there. Now, if you bring that by yourself, is that still worth running? Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get like almost a brand new part or maybe a brand new part each game, which, that's still good. That's still worth using, in my opinion. But if you have 4 people that bring Fast Track, even if it's 1%, that's still like 4 brand new parts that everyone just gets. In addition to the fact that they can just bring brand new parts on top of that stuff. So if 4 people bring it, even if you have the amount, it's still actually too strong. So what do? Okay, let's have it again. Let's say it's 0.5% charges per token now. Now, if you just bring that in solo, you're barely even going to notice the thing. It's like, it's not even going to be a satisfying perk to use now. But now in like a 4-man, when they all bring it, it might actually be balanced. It wouldn't be overpowered anymore. But now you've ruined the perk for solo queue, and now no one wants to bring it. The pick rate of the perk just plummets because it's only going to be used by like 4-man stacking it. And then we're left with another perk that nobody uses again. That's the dilemma. How do you design a perk that works as a solo perk, but when stacked 4 times is not overpowered? That's a really, really hard thing to fix. I have a couple of solutions there. One is you could limit perks. I don't like this idea very much. A lot of games have done this in the past. From what I've learned from games like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff like that, when you automate what other people are not allowed to bring, you basically just get people dodging lobbies until they can bring what they actually want to bring. Now, the truth is you wouldn't know that really until you were like in the match ready to go. But I think that's not something that's going to fit in Dead by Daylight. I don't think the developers would want people to select a perk and then not be able to use the perk that they selected. So I think that suggestion does not work. What I would do, and I think this is the smartest solution, and it's actually not that hard to even implement, would be to introduce diminishing returns to the game. Diminishing returns, if you don't know, it's common in like MMOs, but it's just basically whenever you invest more and more into something, you get less and less out of it. So the more and more Fast Tracks you have, you would get less and less effect of it. So basically, if you just brought it in and you were the only Fast Track in the lobby, it would function as normal. As it says, 2% per token, and that's just how the perk would function, and it'd be fine. If there were 2, it would give you like 1.5% 5%. If there were 3, it would give you like 1%. And if all 4 people had it, it would give you like 0.5%. The best part is you don't even have to really update the descriptions to like tell people this kind of thing. I know the developers are really, really strict about complicating things. And in fact, they just recently simplified like almost every description for perks and stuff like that and items and stuff like that in the game just to make it more easy to understand. So I know they don't want to have another caveat here. This perk is subject to diminishing returns. This means that blah, 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 blah. The best part is you don't even have to explain it. Just shut up. Just let it happen. Like in World of Warcraft on a rogue's kidney shot. It just says you stun something for 7 seconds. It doesn't say, well, there's actually diminishing returns. So if you stun them twice, then it's 3.5 seconds. And if you stun them a third time, like you don't have to specifically be told that. Just bring the perk. You get to use the perk. You might notice sometimes it's a bit less effective and you might be like, oh, that's weird. I wonder why. But that's because everyone else has a perk. It's not something you even consciously have to know about as a new player. So in terms of complicating the game, it doesn't really complicate anything. Just do it. Just have that work like that. And then that's fine. Now, the best part about this is it's not hard to implement whatsoever. And it also doesn't really have to be applied to that many perks. Like, I'm not saying you have to go through every single perk in the game and make it so that it has diminishing returns. Just a few of them, like specifically, like Fast Track, for example. Things like that have to be, if you stack them, they become too strong. There's really just not that many of those that are a problem. Like, I'm not even saying touch things like Sprint Burst, for example, like give it a longer exhaustion time, but there's design space there for you to maybe be able to do that. You could do that if they introduce a new crazy strong exhaustion perk that really is exponentially better the more people that run it. You could introduce, diminishing returns. Like maybe the exhaustion is 20% longer per person running it or something like that. Again, it's not a super complicated system to add, but it would really alleviate so many issues because I know the devs, when designing perks, are having this internal discussion of, okay, by itself, it's not that great, but if everyone has it, fuck, this is too strong. How do we do? And unfortunately, I think most of the time, they end up settling on the side of safety, which makes most perks that come out useless. And that's not fun. You don't want to have a new chapter and new content, especially that you have to pay for, and the perks that you get with it just suck and no one's ever going to run them ever. And unfortunately, I think that happens a bit too much. They err too much on the side of safety. However, if they went too far in the other direction, we'd have current situation right now where Fast Track is clearly too strong. Everybody's running Fast Track and killers are genuinely really suffering, especially nice killers that are hooking even more and more. It is genuinely overpowered. It is legit too strong. So I don't really envy the problems that they're having there, but I do think a system like diminishing returns on a few of them could help. And honestly, they love color coding this stuff, and their descriptions, it could say, like, in the duration, that could be like, I don't know, like purple or some unused color or something like that, pink. And then pink will be known as like the diminishing return color. So if that number is pink, then you'll know that any perk that's got a pink number is going to be a bit less effective the more of them you have on your team. Simple. Like, really, this is not a very complicated feature, and it would solve a lot of the issues with stacking multiple perks. So I think that's what they should do. I'm curious to hear what you guys think in terms of fixing this issue, but that's going to be it for me. I just, for some reason, couldn't say thanks for watching. Okay, bye.